Hey, what's up guys, HarrajSinghProductions over here. I know this video I am going to make today is slightly different in comparison to the videos that I do make usually. It's just that it has come to a point where I want to make content which is fun and unique, as well as having the aim of spreading positive messages to people out there. So yes, if you're new to my channel, make sure you click the subscribe button and make sure you turn on the post notifications so you're updated every time I upload. By the way, to the people that will be watching this video is based on my point of view and perspective on who I think will win. So I don't want anyone to be offended by my opinion. Both of the boxers are amazing, and personally I have been watching boxing for a while, plus I'm also a huge Anthony Joshua fan, so I'm hoping he does win. But in order for me to not be biased, let's look at a few things we should take into consideration before we make a judgment on who's going to win.
What do you make of that? He's already started his trust. You don't want to talk because this robot, I will whoop him.
I got it, man. You know what? This is a bless come true to take those belts, and I'm ready to make history.
Okay, so point number one would be both boxers, Anthony Joshua and Andy Ruiz Jr, have had fights where they brutally knocked out their opponents. But one thing to take into consideration is Anthony Joshua has a higher knockout percentage than Andy Ruiz Jr, which might be an advantage, but then at the same time, Andy Ruiz Jr has had more fights. So if you look at their box red record, Anthony Joshua has had 23 fights, with 22 wins, 21 knockouts and 1 loss, which was with Andy Jr in the last fight he had. Whereas Andy Ruiz, he's had over 33 fights, 22 knockouts and 1 loss against Joseph Parker. And what's interesting to take into consideration is when Andy Ruiz Jr fought Joseph Parker, he lost against Joseph Parker on points. Whereas when Anthony Joshua fought Joseph Parker, he won against Joseph Parker by points, which clearly means that if Anthony Joshua does work on his defense, it could be an advantage for him. Yes, this is an advantage to Anthony Joshua that he's got a higher knockout percentage, but then at the same time, Andy Ruiz has fought many opponents that are taller than him, which can be an edge for him in the next rematch that they have, because Anthony Joshua is not used on fighting shorter boxers, whereas Andy Ruiz has fought boxers that are a lot more taller than him. So in the rematch, when Anthony Joshua is going for the jab, it might be difficult for Anthony Joshua to defend himself when Ruiz comes back with the speed that he has and use his tactics in order for him to get that knockout win. So in order for Anthony Joshua to win this rematch against Andy Ruiz Jr, one thing I will say to him is, if he improves his defense and his movement, so then in the rematch, the hook that was given to Anthony Joshua, which affected him a lot after he knocked down Andy Ruiz in the 3rd round, would not happen again.
And that's why I called it. I used the phrase a punch from the gods. So
if he knows how to defend it this time and knows what he needs to stay away from, then I'm pretty sure he will do well in the rematch and stay away from any dangers that can cause him to be knocked out again like in the first match. I completely understand it's quite nerve-wracking to know who's going to win, but then you can't really underestimate both of the boxers, because both of the boxers have fought boxers that have had amazing records in terms of knockout. But one thing about Anthony Joshua is he's fought people like Klitschko, and if you look at Klitschko's box rec, he's had over 65 fights, only 5 losses throughout his boxing career, which is amazing. People underestimated him before he had that fight. People thought that he was going to lose. But then at the same time, with the tactics that Anthony Joshua has, he scored a knockout in the 11th round, and many people were shocked with his performance. So I believe that if Anthony Joshua does understand what he needs to work on, he could potentially win this fight. But then we need to know what he's worked on, because Andy Ruiz Jr must have found other ways on how to knock him down with the speed he has. There's a lot that comes into boxing, but the one thing we need to take into consideration is how mentally prepared the person is. When Anthony Joshua normally fights, you see him really excited. You see him in a mental state where he looks prepared and ready. Whereas with the fight he had with Andy Ruiz, he wasn't really mentally prepared for it at all. As soon as you see him going into the stage, you can sense a feeling that he's not really prepared. He doesn't look like he's ready for the fight. But then that's really understandable after knowing what happened between him and Jaromila. So long story short, him and Jaromila were supposed to fight on June the 1st at Madison Square Garden. What ended up happening was Jaromila failed his 2nd drug test, hence was the reason why the fight between them two was cancelled. But if you look at the press conferences, them two did not like each other at all. Anthony Joshua was mentally prepared for Jaromila, and he was training for Jaromila for quite a few months. Then all of a sudden, after suddenly finding out that your opponent that you dislike is not going to fight you and they're gonna have to be replaced with someone else, psychologically you are going to be demotivated. It's like all that time you had to train, you're so motivated to do the best you can to defeat the opponent you dislike. And with Anthony Joshua's situation, this was the situation if you think about it. All of a sudden, from Jaromila, they changed it to Andy Ruiz Jr. He must have been fine with it, but then each and every opponent is different. There's different tactics on how you're going to tackle a different opponent, and this could be a reason to why Anthony Joshua did not perform as good as how he normally does, which which could be a huge reason to why Andy Ruiz was much more prepared. As Andy Ruiz Jr, I do respect him. He always wants to be known as the best boxer out there. He wants to fight bigger boxers, better boxers, and he's always challenging himself, which is a great thing to have as a boxer in general. The replacement of Jarrell Miller and Andy Ruiz Jr was taken around May, so 1 month before the fight. So technically both boxers had about 5 weeks to train, and they did not know much about each other's technique. So this rematch will be quite amazing to watch, knowing how they both know what to look out for. But like I've mentioned, it's more about who's mentally prepared for the challenge, so that's one thing we do have to look out for in the actual rematch. But good luck to both of the boxers. But in terms of my prediction, if Anthony Joshua does come out mentally prepared and he's realized what he needs to work on and how to defend himself for Ruiz's fast punches and technique, I personally believe that Anthony Joshua will take the fight by either the 8th round or win by ultimate decision if he knows how to use his technique right, his movement. However, if Anthony Joshua comes out nervous and is still not mentally prepared, I hate to say this, but I think Andy Ruiz Jr will take it by the 6th round. But I hope the best for both of the boxers. Do comment below on who do you think will win the rematch. Have a great day, guys. Peace.